And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
You could argue over the different iconic ships from Star Wars, but the very first ship you see in Episode 4 is the Corellian Corvette. Of course, it's kind of dwarfed by the Star Destroyer soon, but this is the symbol of hope, the Tantive IV, a Corellian Corvette, as it tries to flee. And this here, this looks like a toy. This looks like something you would buy at Toys R Us and have fun. But this is actually a model in the game. We never thought we would get models like this when they started out with small. Here's an A-wing. You know, we never thought we'd get models this big, and so when Fantasy Flight announced this last year, we were excited. They announced that it was obviously not built to scale, because it would be much bigger, but it was built to semi-scale so that we could still use it in battles. Now, this is a pricey ship. Okay, this is expensive. Is it worth it? Well, let's take a look at it, and then I'll tell you what I think. Okay, the first thing we're going to look at here is the size of the ship. As you can see, it's quite big. This is my hand near the ship. This is one of the TIE fighters that's coming to attack the ship, and you can see it's very small. If we compare bigger ships to it, here's the Millennium Falcon. Now, obviously, the Millennium Falcon is much smaller compared to the actual Corellian Corvette, but still. And then here is the last large ship here, the transport. So the Corellian Corvette, and it's very nicely done. I'm not a painter, but I'm very appreciative of the fact that this one's painted and it's made to look beat up. I especially like how the engines in the back of the ship just have this weathered look to them. And even though you don't use the bottom of the ship, there's lots of paintings there too. And for people who care, the main guns swivel a little bit, so that's kind of cool, and so does the little antenna on the ship. So that's the size of the ship, and since this is an epic ship, it's going to move differently than regular ships do. A movement template is included in this one. It's the same one that's used as the transport. There's a blue line in the middle of the ship, so when you move this ship, you're going to move, let's say you want to move it 3 straight, you match this up here, and you move it to the number 3. So it's really a very slow-moving ship, and it actually curves even slower than that. That's the reason that this piece exists here. This piece has a notch in it, and you'll put that notch and put it in place, and then if I'm making a, let's say, a 1 turn, it would turn like that. So it has a very slow turn. Now, the way this ship works, which is just like the transport ship, the large ships, is you have this dial here. And on this dial, you're going to pick your movement, but it also shows a certain number of energy that you will get when you pick the movement. So let's say I want to pick a farther movement. If I want to go 3 straight, I'm going to get less energy, and I only get 1 energy when I go 4 straight. Energy are tokens that you will get and you'll place on the ship. Now, to be clear, this ship is very different than the other ones in the sense that it's made up of 2 cards that are put together. These 2 cards together make the whole ship. The reason that this has 2 cards is twofold. One, each section of this comes with its own set of damage cards. So you have some for the fore and some for the aft of the ship. And when these cards are drawn, you can see they each show the thing, so you can take different types of damage. Maybe a direct hit for 2 hit points, or the weapons are damaged. So there's that. And there's different things that can happen. But if you can see they have different shields, 5 and 3, but they also have different structure points. When the structure points for 1 are done, the card will be flipped over, and that part of the ship is crippled. And maybe if it had upgrades, those upgrades would be destroyed. Different things will happen, like if the back of your ship's crippled, you can't move very well, and you get less energy. If the front of your ship is crippled, your gun doesn't work nearly as well, and so on. If both parts of your ship are crippled, then the whole ship blows up. Now, the big ship also has some other things. If the ship moves into smaller ships, so let's say it runs into an X-Wing, that X-Wing is destroyed. If it runs into a larger ship, then they both take a damage point. Anyway, back to here. This part of the ship, the rear, provides the energy that I was talking about, and this energy can be used to do different actions. And because there's 2 halves to the ship, this ship can actually do 2 different actions. So it can choose one from the front or one from the back. So maybe from the back it wants to use recover. Recover gets rid of all your energy and will heal 1 shield for each energy that you get rid of. And then maybe in the front you can target lock somebody. So you have different things that you can do with this ship. And of course there's upgrades. Before I talk about those upgrades though, let me talk about something that's really cool. Okay, this ship has a gun, and look at here's your range, 1 to 3, but in this one we have 1 to 5. Your main gun has 1 to 5 range, and some of your secondary guns can have that also. You actually have to bolt 2 of these together, and it's kind of annoying because I'm really not sure how I'm going to store this since it doesn't fit in the box, and I don't want to unbolt it every time I store it. I'll just have to keep it in a drawer or something. When you shoot a ship at range 4, they get 2 extra defensive die. When you shoot them at range 5, they get 3 extra defensive die. So, you know, it's not like you're going to be blowing people away, but you can. And that's a neat thing. So that's cool to have that extra range. Anyway, back to those upgrades. Here's a guy who I'm pretty sure dies in the movie, one of the Antilles folks, but you can look at someone's maneuver and add a stress token to them. But this also comes with all the main characters, Leia Organa, who can, if she can check this card, you can discard this card to let everyone who has a red maneuver to treat it as a white maneuver. So I don't really know how that has to do anything with Leia, but R2-D2, of course, and this is not the first time we've seen these characters in the game, but R2-D2 here is great where you can recover a shield, but then you roll a die and there's a chance that one of your damages gets worse. C-3PO, I love this card a lot because you guess when you're rolling for defense how many of the avoids you're going to get, and if you're correct, you get 1 more. Total gambling card, but I'll stick them on my ships. Then, of course, the Prince of the Thieves here, Han Solo, who if he target locks someone, he can spend that target lock to change all of the eyeball symbols to hits. And then there's all sorts of other things you can add to the ship, and you can really fit a lot in the Corellian Corvette. A gunnery team and a sensor team. And you can add extra weapons to the ship. Now, each of these weapons that you add can fire separately. So the Corellian Corvette has its main weapon, which shoots 4 and has a range of 5, but you can also add single turbo lasers to it, which cost energy to shoot, and so they have to charge up with energy, and then you can shoot them. And the defender doubles their agility against these, but they have the range of 5, and you can change one of the eyeball results to a hit. The other weapon you can put on the Corellian Corvette are the quad laser cannons. These only have a range of 1 to 2, but you spend an energy, and if it doesn't hit, you can spend another energy to shoot it again. So it's an interesting, which of these weapons are you going to place on your ship. And then you also have gas supplies that you can discard to get extra energy, an ionization reactor, an engine booster, a backup shield generator, a comms booster, and then 3 different titles that you can give the ship. The Jaina's Light, and of course the Tantive IV, here where your 4-section upgrade bar, basically you can add extra stuff to your ship in the upgrade bar. So this is all this is based on using the Corellian Corvette, and almost all these cards are specifically for it, or for large ships in general, but they're still pretty cool. The game comes with a bunch of tokens. You have a Class E cargo container, and then piles of tokens, including things that can be used for satellites and such. And much of that is used in this mission booklet. Now this mission booklet has missions that can be used as standalone missions, or they can actually be played as a campaign, where you have one mission which could lead to 2 different missions, which could lead to 2 other missions, which could lead to a 4th mission. And all these missions require just one of these Corellian Corvettes. And they have different things, like maybe you need to destroy the Corellian Corvette if you're the Imperials, or different satellites. And they have sometimes very specific ways that the Corellian Corvette is set up. And you can pick from maybe limited things. So it's very thematic. If you like the story of Star Wars, this will add to that. And then there's also a way to keep track of the point of no return and who wins the different missions. Is it worth it now, is the question. Well, man, I love this. It is so much fun. It's cool to have. I love taking this and having the enemy get swarms of TIE fighters to come, and then you can protect it. I really enjoyed the transport ship, but this couldn't shoot back. This was mostly just a keep going, try to escape. It's kind of a moving object, it felt like more. This feels like a ship that can shoot back. It can't maneuver very well, but wow, you can set up a whole scenario around it. Very fun. It's a great model, but it is expensive. And I don't think anyone but the hardcore X-Wing folks should get it. See, for X-Wing to be fun, what do you need? 3 or 4 X-Wings, several TIE fighters, maybe, a couple Y-Wing and A-Wing, different ships. You don't need this to have fun, okay? This isn't something you need. This is like a luxury item in a sense, but it does work, and it is really cool. And many of you are going to buy this regardless of what I say. I think you get your money's value. You get a lot of tokens, you get cards, and you get this ship, which is really well done. But, if there's no big Imperial ship yet to fight against this, so you have to take a lot of, if you want to see like 2 capital ships with a bunch of small ships, you're not going to be able to do that. Do I regret getting it? Not one bit. But I do realize very easily it's not for everyone. It's cool. The big ship rules are neat. You can try to hit little ships pretty hard. They can maneuver around it. And I think Fantasy Flight did a good job at showing how these ships move very differently than the small ships. The X-Wings and the TIE Fighters feel much more maneuverable when seeing how slowly this thing turns and shoots. And come on, it can shoot 5! So cool. Anyhow, that's this. I'm glad I have it. I think it's neat. I think it's worth it, but I don't think it's for everyone because it does change the tenor of the game and not everyone's going to be interested in that.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
There.